That was a clip from NBC's hit comedy The Office. Microsoft just announced a deal with Reveille, the production company that created the show. Reveille is going to produce web pilots for MSN, short comedy, and reality shows designed to work on the internet. In our exclusive interview, Bill Gates discusses why he's going Hollywood and how Microsoft is protecting our kids from the dangers of the internet. Take a look.
Big news, Microsoft just goes Hollywood. You do a deal with Reveille to produce 10 original pilots, basically TV shows for Microsoft. That's a huge, huge sea change.
Well, I think this issue of Microsoft's connection to content we've been relatively constant on that, and the world is kind of seesawed around where they say, oh, Microsoft's going to buy a studio, you know, back in the late 90s there was this thing called convergence where they thought companies that were in every business, if you owned a network, owned a TV station, owned all these things, if you could check all those boxes, that there was some logic to that. We're a software company. The thing we understand best is software. And so once you get too far afield from that, it isn't the thing that we're going to do best. When the internet started up, we saw travel reservations as something that was very software intensive. So we created this Expedia. Eventually, that shifted from being about software technology to about pre-booking seats and figuring out where people wanted to go on holiday and getting the reviews right. And so we spun that off for several $1 billion because it got outside of that core circle of competence. The biggest piece of content we do is interactive games. Halo is our hottest mainstream sort of content thing, and we hope to go and do more of those, because the balance there, although it's a lot about creativity, there's some software piece in it, and as somebody who's making the Xbox the leading game platform, we need proprietary content that really shows off what we've done there.
We'll talk about the democracy of the net, and there is a flip side to it also. With the emergence of blogs and whatnot, I saw some research that people are not remembering where they're getting their information from, that somebody can take in a piece of information from the front page of the Wall Street Journal and from Louis' blog, where, of course, there's no accountability. How do we somehow continue to foster this democracy, but somehow keep information accountable?
Well, the internet is awfully good at this in the sense that having rating systems, having reputation systems, being able to traverse things back to the original source and see what website that came from. I mean, if somebody writes something about a bill in Congress or a lawsuit, I love the fact I can just click, you know, and I read the original material. If there's some crazy statistic, I can click on it and see it by time, by region. And so it's so much better than print media where...
But that's when you go to the second layer. Because so many people that are just staying at that first layer, they're taking in information that is filtered through, you know, a very certainly subjective source at the very least, and a dishonest source at the very most.
The internet will get better at flagging things in terms of reputation. You know, we're going through this in terms of websites that pretend to be banks and want you to give your credit card number, and then they do identity fraud and break out. We had to have that a little bit with mail to flush out the abusive mail with spam. We've made progress there. With the new round of software, the Windows Vista, we make a lot of progress on these fake websites.
Another dark side of the internet, the MySpaces of the world, and we've done a lot of shows on internet predators. You guys have taken a lead in terms of fighting that. How do we make this medium safer? And you're a dad, you've got kids. What do you do to protect your kids from that underbelly that happens on the internet?
Well, up to a certain age, a parent should just have a complete view of everything their kid does. Every site they browse, every email they exchange, every IM that comes in and out. When they want to add to their buddy list, you approve that. When they want to go beyond fairly strict filtering, you approve that. There is an interesting judgment call. At what age do you start to back off and say, okay, I know who they email with, but not what they email. I know if they're not all the different websites they're going to. And different parents are going to have to strike their own balance on this. The technology is good at enabling the parents to do these things. Now, sometimes there's this inversion where the kid understands the technology so much better, or it's too complex to set these things up. because this is a big issue, there's a lot of progress on these things. Should your parents be able to see your MySpace site? I'd say, our family up to age maybe 14 or 15, the answer will be yes.
I'm sure your 14-year-old's very happy about that.
Well, my oldest is only 10, so we really haven't gotten, her main thing is she always wants to buy pets that she finds out on the internet. She saves her energy for trying to talk us into that as opposed to trying to do covert web browsing so far.
More of my conversation with Bill Gates when we come back. Will he run for president? Find out who his heroes are and what it's like to be the wealthiest man in the world. Don't go anywhere.
2010. Pella, viewed to be the best.
Back with more of my exclusive one-on-one with Microsoft Chairman Bill Gates in Redmond, Washington. I asked him what it's like to be the richest guy in the world and who he looks up to. Take a look.
Who are your heroes? Who inspires you?
Well, outside of the technology business, Warren Buffett's the person I've learned the most from. And he has this very refreshing, simple way of looking at things. So I'd put him top of the list. There's a lot of great scientists who focused on just solving tough problems and being very pure and working on those things that I admire.
What's the Buffett lesson number one?
Well, I think Warren would say integrity would probably be the top thing for him. He's got a very nice, simple way of looking at the world, and he points out that you don't have to, whether it's investing or people picking to work with or picking what you want to do, most things you don't have to form a judgment. You just have to pick a few that you feel very, very strongly about, and then you can build your career around those things that you love to do, and pick people that it's neat to be in the office with every day, even when things are going poorly, things are going well. That if you make a few decisions right and stick to the area that you know well, almost anybody can have an incredible success.
You mentioned Buffett and I'm going to go back earlier to say the tough part about being Bill Gates. Do you tend to surround yourself with peers? Now, I'm not talking about financial peers, but people who are, because that's tough to do, isn't it? Is it hard for you because
I sit alone.
And Buffett's number two. There you go. It's funny you say that. Would you ever, because you are competitive, would that ever piss you off if you weren't the richest guy in the world anymore?
I wish I wasn't. There's nothing good that comes out of that.
It's better than being the second richest, though.
No. You get more visibility as a result of it.
But is it tough to connect to people? With part of the success you've had and part of being in this, I don't mean to embarrass this iconic place, to connect with people anymore, because you do have this buffer around you. And is there a negative side with this? It's not even celebrity, but this place that you hold in our culture.
Well, I think anybody who's high up in a big company,
what's beyond Microsoft,
has got to do things that get them back in touch. So, for example, all the summer employees who come and work at Microsoft, I have turns out now, five lawn parties at my house where I just sit and spend 3 hours listening to what questions they have, talking with them, what do they think is cool, what's not. I take several think weeks a year where people from all over the company send me papers. I have one coming up in 2 weeks, and they send in 300 papers. And so night and day, I just sit and read these things and comment on them and try and see, okay, what are the new advances? Like 5 are on robotics, and 3 are on Luma LEDs, and all the things that will affect the decisions that we make. I try and spend a lot of time brainstorming about new products with the young, innovative people from those product groups. I go out and see universities and look at what's going on in those research departments, because often very leading edge things are coming in there. So I may have a particular problem that if I don't really create the opportunities to see things that are just starting up, that the press of people who want me to speak or things might fill up my schedule, and I might miss those early learning systems. But I think I'm not unique in that, as you move away from actually writing the code yourself and you're managing through 3 or 4 levels, you have to be very clever to make sure that you've got the data coming in.
But I'm talking even outside of the company. Is it tough for you to go to a soccer game?